Elwyn interview, take one. Elwyn interview, take one. Let's get started.
Okay.
Give me your name and what do you do?
My name's Elwyn and I'm a network administrator and web developer.
Where do you come from?
East Oakland, California.
Who were you raised by?
My mother and my grandmother. I lived in Southern California for a while, growing up, and then Montana for a short bit, and then went to college in New York, and came back to the West Coast and made my home in Medford, Oregon.
Were there a lot of business owners or service providers or other black professionals that you were exposed to growing up in Oakland?
Not necessarily so much in Oakland from the neighborhoods that I lived in, but when I started going to high school out in San Jose, that's when I got exposed to black business ownership or even minority business ownership. Places that I went to school and the people that sponsored the schools that I went to. You know, the few enterprise academies and stuff were Latino-owned and black-owned businesses that were trying to, I guess, help uplift the youth with teaching us that there was other things out there, such as letting us work on projects with Netscape Navigator and Yahoo when they were just incubators, being able to go out to Stanford and see some of the other black-run tech programs, you know, out there. That's kind of what led me to the field that I'm in right now.
What was your mother's occupation?
My mother was a phone operator for AT&T, like the back in the day switchboard operators. And due to the fact that there was no child care back in the day, me and a lot of my other friends used to be at work with our moms and watching how these networks ran, you know, just as a kid playing on the floor, messing around. But like that was the business, you know, back in the 80s. And we see like where we're at now technologically, you know, with how phone service work and everything and how things have changed. Like my mom's work history and some of my aunts has, like, I guess, changed my outlook on where we should be at in those workplaces. My mom being switchboard operator to knowing that I could be the person that actually owns the company like AT&T.
Off the top of your head, I know this may be a difficult question to answer, but was there any defining moment that you could think of that made that a realization for you that you could own the business as opposed to working for the business? Or did you kind of just slowly
Yeah,
into that?
and it's kind of an uncanny story, but you know, I am from Oakland. Got wrapped up in stealing cars when I was a kid, and I went to the county jail for 9 months. And while I was in there, this is like around the time that Google was just coming out, and there was a web cafe and this other company. But one of the guys in there worked for Blizzard Games, and he did a lot of the programming for Google and like some of their other interfaces. But he was sitting in there on a domestic case. And he taught me and some of my other friends around me, other young guys, about stocks and about like the benefits of actually owning a business. Like you never think about that. You never think that a business owner runs a nation of sorts. You know, you're responsible for all of your employees, you're responsible for the things that you develop and everything like that. And that becomes, in sorts, like its own family. So if I have 30 employees, that's 30 new family members. And then their family members also become my family members because the checks that I send home with them help support, you know, those same families. But in that 9 months, this guy ran down all those principles to us. And he was also a minority. He was Armenian. And even though he was in there for a domestic case, you know, he ended up coming out of that. But sitting with him taught me one thing, that no matter what adversity you come from, number one, coming to America, not speaking English, then learning how to speak English, and then catching up on your education and so on and so forth. It's like anyone can do that, especially a guy that no matter where I was born, you know, I was born in Sacramento, but raised in East Oakland. You know, for everything else that I saw, you can be anyone that you want to be if you put the dedication into it. So yeah, that was my defining moment while I was 19, sitting in a county jail in Santa Clara.
Who are some of your role models that you had growing up?
So I was raised unconventionally. So the role models that you pick might not always be directly around you, and then some of the people who are. One of my grandmother's friends, I can't remember his name now, but he played TC on Magnum PI. And he was a black man, he was Canadian, he was an actor, he's a real successful guy. And seeing how somebody else, this during the 80s and 90s, was able to maneuver his way through either show business and running his own personal initiatives, for his at-risk youth. And, believe it or not, in Ontario, Canada, black at-risk youth in the 80s up there. It's just something you wouldn't have been aware of, but I learned a lot from him in watching how, pretty much it was after showbiz for him that he was doing all of these other things and running a business. And and I was still a kid, never thought that it was something that I could do. I felt like he was just lucky. It's like, oh, you got a business because you were once an actor. But yeah, I look back at things today as a 41-year-old man, about things that he said to me back when I was 11, and he's no longer alive, but great impact on me. Bill Cosby, yeah, say what you want to say, but I was kind of raised by Bill Cosby because I grew up on The Cosby Show. It's where I learned how to be a father, what I thought a father should be, and everything like that. So, everybody's role model is going to be something different. Same thing with Oprah Winfrey, watching how she's grown. And I'm not just going to only name off people of color, but yeah, just watching the development from that woman, from working on a TV show to owning an entire network to owning a publications company, that you can do a lot of different things. Jay-Z as well, grew up listening to that music. Same thing with listening to Tupac, but I wouldn't call him a role model because it wasn't somebody I could grow up with. It was somebody I could deal with for a phase. Jay-Z, it opened up my eyes because he would say something and you would be like, Basquiat, what's that? It's surprising, but you might learn a little bit of history just off of something else that you listen to, and something that opens up your eyes. My father-in-law, honestly, 75-year-old Mexican man, that helped me a lot with parenting and the responsibilities of being a man and how to pass down those same beliefs to your kids, because it's not like you can force someone, to grow up to be the person that you want them to be, but just how you nurture as a man. And coming from a different walk of life, the man came from Durango, same thing, had to learn the language, buy land here, raise a family, but yeah, one of my role models, and my grandmother, watched my grandmother do a lot of amazing stuff in life, and being very culturally diverse, and just getting a better understanding of not accepting what class you're born into, but creating the new class that you want to be in.
So what did you study when you were in college?
At first, when I went to school, I wanted to work in finance. So I thought I was going to learn banking. Got into that. I'm not into math. Wasn't into law very much either. I started going to a few other study groups trying to get better at math. And that's where I met other people that were working in marketing classes. A lot of them had art majors though, and marketing was going to be the backup for them. Not very artistic, but I guess the best way I could put it is I have a way of mapping out systems. It's easy for me to figure out things or to figure out how people understand things. And that's what drew me to marketing. And so I used to sit and listen to these guys riff about, either having to come up with a demo campaign for a class project. And that's when I dropped my major and went to marketing, but I didn't pick up the art. And yeah, from there, it's where I really started making, I guess, friends that had positive impact, and started taking me, because I went to school in Albany, not down in the city, but they started taking me down to the city. Because I initially wanted to go to school in Syracuse, and just wasn't for me. I found myself getting back into like the same old things that I was in Oakland. Syracuse to me was like another Oakland. So, and it was kind of hard for me. What took me to college all the way out there is that 9-month stint that I did in jail came with probation, everything like that, but it ruined a scholarship that I would have been able to get to go to Stanford. And I went through high school through alternative schools because I was, just always into something. It was cars and money, and like Oakland had a culture, back in the day. I mean, I was driving since I was 14, and getting kicked out of schools and everything, and came across Enterprise Academy that showed me that I could actually go to college with the bad grades and everything else that I had, and how I had to work and things that I had to learn. And that came from minority sponsorships, to the San Jose school district, and one of the other schools that I was able to get accepted into was all the way out in New York. And coincidentally, I'd already made my first trip up to Medford, and I'd started seeing that the world was a little bit larger, than the Bay Area. So I took the leap to go on the Greyhound bus all the way out to New York with nothing but a laptop and some clothes, and go to school, and stayed in a, can't remember what they're called now, but in an efficiency. So they're about like $360 a month, so I had about the cheapest rent, and then I just had to struggle it through and figure out something in school. And it was really because it was college or the military for me, and I wasn't smart enough for the military, it seemed. So what I went through to try to go take those classes. So yeah, a large part of my upbringing happened, on the Harriman campus, in Albany. And the beauty out of that, though, unbeknownst to me, growing up and hearing about Harriet Tubman and things like that, friends from up there took me down to Cortland, New York, where I got to go see the end of the Underground Railroad and Harriet Tubman's actual home, and where her kids still run the YMCA, her grandchildren. But yeah, just off of taking that leap to go to school for something that I had no idea for sure what I was going to go in for. I just checked off the box for finance and math and all these other great classes that I thought were going to be beneficial to me, because all I wanted was money. It's the only reason why I went to school. I really didn't care about what I did, but I got to learn about who I was and what I was good at, surreptitiously, by just experiencing. And I worked it all out and came back from New York 4 years later and tried to live here again. Now, I was back and forth while in school, and I'd started a family here. I had my first kid born here in Medford while I was still in school in New York. So yeah, it was my thing that when I came back, I'd start my life here.
What happens next?
I did not start working in marketing directly. What I decided to do was I wanted to work in pharmaceuticals. And I met a couple of guys that were working for Asante, and they were pharmaceuticals reps. And they explained the program to me, and they said, hey, you're going to have to get some sort of certification, either become an MA or a PA or something like that, so that you can get a basic understanding of pharmacology, and then you can get in here and start marketing to the doctors. So I did that. I went to school. I rushed through a 1-year course and did that in 7 months, right down the street over here at Abdel. And I used to walk, I had my son, who was, by the time I was out of school, he was 5. I would walk him to Washington, and then I would walk myself to school. And went down there, did that, worked at Black Oak for a while, and ended up taking a job in Salem, leaving from here to be a web developer and marketing analyst for Purdue Pharma. And that, I learned that I hated it. I hated marketing things that I didn't believe in. And I got sued twice by Purdue Pharma for $2 million as a guy with no money, because I wrote an article that says, do you know that your grandmother's addicted to heroin? Just talking about the development of oxycodone, oxymorphone, and other derivatives of, of opiates, and how they were legalized and then, pushed on the people. But it was just things from, like, I learned in that little short 7 months in school, and I'm a avid, I guess, student. I like to study, and building the websites, and with going with everything else based on marketing principle and how you catch people's attention, type of music that you have to use, and things like that, our age demographics. It was just like a big eye opener to me that after about 2 years, I was done with it. So that's when I left from marketing for anyone else, based on someone else's initiatives, whether I believed in them or not, and started my own business. So that was in 2009. And then, by about 2011, I was in full swing of having my own business. So I won't say that I started in 2009 or 2010 because I sucked at running my own business. So when I had to learn that, no, it's not about who tells you when to wake up. You wake up when the money's there, or when you have to do the projects or anything like that. But from everything, from college to working for somebody else, a lot of things I had to pick up along the way. Nobody has to, somebody tells you when to study, but how hard you study and how much you put into it, is all on you, and seems like everything, in my growing up was bringing me to this. So what I do mostly now and with marketing is business development for other business owners who are trying to do the exact same thing, because I've got to listen to what their dream is and help them build it, whether on paper or digitally, or physically with storefronts and things like that, and remapping their brand. After college, working for pharmaceutical companies, that's when I really put my foot down that I'll only work on stuff that I actually believe in. So, and I've had some crazy stories with web development as far as that also. There's been some sites that people have asked me to build that I didn't believe in. Then there's been some sites that I've actually built for PAL leagues. Even though I was a young guy, went to jail and everything like that, just to see myself there, building a policeman's sports league, site for them, and teaching them how to administrate it and updating it for them. And, or just, I've had phone sex operators ask me to build a site for them, and I've done it. Had to learn a little bit about that business. I'll never do that again. And I built it. It was not just a simple website. I actually built a network, so it wasn't just that it was a site for that. It was a telecommunications site that pretty much ran its own switchboard, for these independent operators. But at the end of the day, the key words that I had to learn, I'll never do that again. And that's what brought me around to doing automotive marketing, because, like I told you, in my youth, I stole cars, I ran chop shops and stuff. And cars have always been my thing, and it's a Bay Area thing. If you're from down there, you go to Modesto, Oakland, San Francisco, San Jose, anywhere down there, it's a car town. And I don't know, it's been a big part of my upbringing, so.
What are some hopes and dreams you have for your children?
That they don't get overwhelmed with the things that we've been experiencing in these past few years. No matter how rough I feel like it was for me growing up, right? Growing up in today's age is a whole lot different. We never knew what a lockdown was, or pandemic virus, but it's a scarier scene now for our kids growing up. So, before, everybody wished that their kids would be able to achieve the American dream. I just hope that my kids achieve the goals that they set forth for themselves, and are actually able to, I guess, enjoy life for what we have coming up, because, things just haven't been the same. I'm on a trip to the ocean. It's not the same as it was in 2007. I guess that's my biggest thing now. Maybe 2 years ago, I would have, hoped for one of them being president or this or that or just anything else. But now, I just hope that they are able to experience quality of life.
What keeps you going?
A lot of people say that I'm a very competitive person. And I guess the one person I compete with the most is myself, because I always know I can do something better. Or if if I set a goal for something and I set a timeline, you know, I'm always on top of it. I guess I'm pretty much self-motivated. So what keeps me going is just trying to be better than I was in 99, 2009, and, you know, anytime going forward. And my kids, you know, growing up without a dad, you know, I guess, or growing up the traditional way, being raised like in a traditional household or anything like that, and not being able to like really raise my kids that exact same way because I've gone to school cross country and everything that is taken for me to kind of break the cycle, you know, has been, it's been a journey. Yeah, just trying to provide something better for my kids. And to also show them that there's more. I mean, they can do whatever it is that they want. And that those aren't just words. I mean, like, yeah, everybody tells their kids that you could be president someday. I mean, logically you can, you know, but it just comes down to the work. And we won't just even say the opportunities that you're handed, because not everyone's offered the same opportunity to do anything, but you know, you can achieve and do and be whatever it is that you want to be, whether it is president or a psychopath.
What's your reply to someone who says that we're not supposed to?
Yes, that we're not supposed to. It's one of my favorite questions, you know, to answer. For one reason, I've traveled a lot of the United States, right? And systemic racism. Racism is very different from the racism that I will receive as a black man or a minority in the Bay Area to what I will get in Montana, Utah, or Chicago, or Southern Illinois, or New York, or anywhere else, right? And man, the whole racism goes both ways is 1,000,000% true. Because at the same time, growing up in East Oakland, where Mrs. Fields is from, Mrs. Fields cookies and stuff, right? That white family was, you know, treated with tons of racial indifference living in East Oakland, you know. So yeah, they've had to go through the same things that we have, but yeah, getting your stores burnt down and things like that. But it all comes back down to, yes, we all have the same opportunities. We all have books and, you know, access to those things, what we raise our family and our children with, you know, how we prepare ourselves going further. Because, man, I just got to learn about, okay, same thing with systemic racism, and then seeing my great-grandmother, you know, at a cotillion ball back in the day, and find out that we weren't slaves, you know, per se, but, you know, living in Ohio and stuff like that, they were more educated, but I didn't grow up knowing them that same way because, you know, my mother broke off. But I don't believe, I honestly really don't believe in racism. I believe just in pure ignorance, not knowing that all people, like, man, cut you open, cut me open, bleed the same color, doesn't matter where we're from. Just based on sheer indifference or people feeling their own feelings of inequality will choose to, you know, find a way to try to overcome that, you know, and sometimes it's by ignorant means. Even as a black business owner, right? I can be here running a marketing agency, and if people don't want to patronize me here, that's not their fault. It's my job to change their perspective, you know, so I could either sit back and blame them for their beliefs, but if I really want their business, I'll work harder at changing their perspectives. You know, and I've given away a lot of free work in doing just that same thing. So yeah, I believe that we are all afforded the same opportunities. It's just about how we use them. And going back to parenting, that's your number one job. And not all parents knew that. That, hey, man, your job is to give your kids the best tools to prepare them for the world and the future and for what they're going to be doing.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what you meant by when you said breaking the cycle?
Yeah, so I won't say that we won't use the regular old systemic cycle that everyone says, like, oh, this is what the problem is. Within each family, there's issues. You know, I mean, it's kind of funny that we're not that much further away from dogs in psychology, you know, puppies or whatever like that. That certain habits are hereditary, you know, that are like bred into us. And we do them kind of without really knowing why we do it, you know. Like there's one thing that me, my kids, and like all of us, we all do. It's like touching our upper lip to our nose when we're concentrating, but it's just something that we all do. But the cycle for us, for my family, had been divorce, not being there for your kids, leaving family members with mental health issues because my family has some mental health issues, you know, and just general separation because we're all like lone wolves. So, but in doing that, for me, breaking that cycle, man, I've got kids, quite honestly, with two different women, an ex-wife and a baby's mom, you know, and hey, some say it's the plight of the black man growing up when you're learning how to have a family. So in that breaking the cycle for me, I know that I have 8 brothers and I have 8 siblings, but I don't know all of them except for one brother who lives in New York. But all my kids know each other. We broke that cycle. They've all grown up with each other. I've got a 20-year-old son, you know, and a 9-year-old daughter, but they all know each other. They've all had Christmases and everything like that, you know. Honoring education, you know, some branches of my family didn't. And I guess honoring moral integrity, because there's a lot of selfishness that I see in my family, see it in myself and in my kids, you know, in making ourselves do extra things, going the extra mile for someone else or anything like that, just to make those changes so that when they start raising their kids, it's not an issue. It's not something they have to work through. Like me, I had to learn that taking other people's stuff isn't the solution to getting yourself rich. You know, but and it's not as simple as just saying like, hey, don't take from other people. Yes, you could read the 10 Commandments or 641 commandments and get an understanding of what it is to live like socially with other people, but breaking those habits within yourself. Like things that you just have to know about yourself, and you can't really know about yourself unless you know your dad, your mother, your grandmother, and you'll see certain traits. So once I found out a lot of those, breaking the cycle and a lot of those and being more family oriented. We didn't do holidays, you know, and I do holidays with my kids. I mean, mostly because I grew up, I guess, untraditionally. We were Jewish, you know, but so yeah, I didn't have the Christmas trees or anything like that. Now I grow up with kids who live traditionally, and just having to break out of that mold and do that and be more available to them, like just break the old cycles that have run within my family that have kept us all separated. Like know more about yourself. And then at the same time, breaking those, I don't even know how to put it, like the misconceptions that people will set on you, you know, like they'll see a black man walking down the street holding a paper bag with some snacks in it and stuff. And you might think that just on first appearance that he's got no car, he's, you know, it might be couch surfing or whatever else. But, you know, but depending on where you're at, watching that man walk down the sidewalk is, you know, gonna be the perception. So breaking that, I don't want my kids ever looking like hoodlums, you know, so the same thing with sagging your pants and things like that. Just identifying those problems and then breaking those cycles or correcting them, we should say. Because, I mean, there are good cycles out there, right? How many black families do you know, or just any type of families, where everyone in that family has gone to a school of higher education? That's a cycle. Like, we wouldn't want to break that.
What are some things that our kids can be doing today to make their tomorrow better?
I guess what I would explain to kids now that I've been trying to impress on my own kids, America's land of super consumers, right? We sit here, we just consume content. Whoever's watching this is consuming content. So whether you're sitting on YouTube, Netflix, or anything like that, Instagram, people are sitting around watching other people get rich. You know, I mean, we'll say Jake Paul, for example, right? The different steps that this guy's taken, you know, no matter what it is that he's doing though, but he's sat around making content, but like doing something that he enjoys. I mean, obviously, you know, and making money from it. But I mean, more than just somebody like Jake Paul, it's just somebody that's relevant right now or for today. But become conscious of what's out there, what's afforded to you. Like, I mean, come on, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, and all those are all free. And there's other people that are using these free instruments to make millions of dollars. And I've got a few friends that I've actually worked with. One guy, Mike, that, you know, has got his own YouTube channel, has had it for years. And I remember when him also from Oakland, from West Oakland, you know, sitting on the curb, JDM cars, we used to do the exact same thing. You know, now the guy makes about 40 grand a month just off of not being an influencer, just creating content towards what it is that he likes, you know, or showing him taking care of his grandmother. But he had to become tech savvy, you know, just how these platforms worked. And it's all right there. It's free for you to use, and it's what they want you to do, actually. I mean, just look at Facebook for how that's grown. I mean, just become aware of how these things are starting to change, because the business front's not going to be the same. You know, like having a brick and mortar storefront's not going to be as valuable as it was before. So 10 years ago, you tell somebody, I got a store, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, where's it located? You know, you say, oh, it's just a website. They look at you like you're a clown. But now you have one guy here locally in town who has a brick and mortar store and doesn't make more than 50 grand a year, versus the guy who has the website and makes 650 grand a year, you know, with a much lower overhead. But just start preparing yourself. Look at all these things that are given to you for free, that you're already absorbing and watching other people doing, and start taking notes, you know, because man, it's not that hard. Optimus 5 Company is a network development and marketing administration tool. What we do is we provide the implements to give you all the big box strategy things like mass SMS marketing, mass email outreach, giving you an intuitive website that actually interacts and has positive tracking cookies to better involve your consumer. When people end up at your website, they're looking for something. And then also how you get them there through SEO or paid advertising. Those are all the strategies that we teach our customers, and we give them the tools to do those things themselves. We're not your traditional marketing agency, whereas we're going to just sit back and do everything for you. Like, no, we teach you how to build your dream, and we give you the tools to do it, because one of the big problems that we have out there right now, we have sites like Squarespace, Wix, and all these other big box companies, right, that are charging you literally $600 a month to do things that in utility would only cost you about 35 bucks a month. Optimus5.co. Find us right there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. We're everywhere. You can find us on SEMA. Our mainstay is automotive marketing. So a lot of the shops local here in Medford, well, can't even say a lot of them, a good handful of them we've worked with, tire companies, even dispensaries, you know, just depending on what genre that you're trying to reach. You know, for the end customer, we've built promo vehicles, you know, for dispensaries in Nevada, Illinois, and Arizona. Coming up with better outreach strategies, you know, to following up with your customers, getting new customers, or I guess expanding your territory. That's our specialty. You can reach us at 206-895-3140, and that's call or text any time of the day. There's always someone there. We're minority run, and we accept messages in Spanish, Urdu, and in English. Some of our technicians are Pakistani, so